Go.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. This is Angela Coulter and
Sarah C. Avignoni.
bringing you this week's Ascended World. Happy Memorial Day edition.
Right. It's funny. I'm still not seeing us.
Oh, yeah, I see us. I have us
Oh,
up. But anyway, today's topic, it's a little different. Like, a couple weeks ago we did What's Your Dirty Little Secret. But
right.
what's been coming up for a lot of people recently, good morning, Sandra, has been a lot of stuff so it was challenging for us to try to encapsulate it in a quick, like summary, right? But it's stuff that we thought we took care of or we thought is okay, right? And so we sort of have glossed over it and try to ignore that there are still things to look at or resolve within
Right.
these things. Now, how this tends to be happening with people that I know been with long-standing friendships that have really stopped serving them. And it's like, well, you get into this place. So these are the kind of things. Oh, well, I've been in this relationship, whether it's a relationship like a spousal thing,
Right.
or a friend, for a long time. It's comfortable because I know the person, we've had good times together, but it has really increasingly been stressed or
Lopsided.
lopsided. Yes. And so but I look the other way because I honor the friendship. And isn't that unconditional love, by accepting the people for a person for what, I mean, that's what people say, right? That's how we
Right.
justify. Well, isn't that unconditional love, just accepting them for well, and it's like, okay, yes. And then it's also unconditional self-love to say, except I don't need to be a part of their issues if I'm
Right.
being drawn into them or held down or whatever. 3 different people last week I spoke with had the same thing happen with really long-standing relationships or friendships that they'd had,
Mm-hmm.
um, where something came up that caused the explosion finally.
Right. Well, and it doesn't even have to be an explosion on the perspective of what traditionally is thought of an explosion, but an event happens, and it may have happened hundreds of times before, but it hits your energy, and all of a sudden it's just not acceptable.
Exactly. Yep.
And so that's the explosion, which is different than, oh, it's a big row or, anything like that. It's just simply, nope, I can't accept this anymore.
Or I just choose not to anymore.
Right.
And it doesn't, right, you're right, it doesn't have to be a row, but it's just like sort of a line that
Right.
it's like,
Yeah.
no, here's the line. And so it's my choice now. My expanded consciousness is showing me the opportunity to draw the line and say, enough is enough. I honor and respect and love myself so that I don't have to be in a situation where I am required to be less than all of who I am.
Right. Right.
And then you have the opportunity to have gratitude, apologize and forgive, all of that, right? Going back to the whole forgiveness cycle and having gratitude for the relationship, for what it's called, and this could be jobs too, like
Right.
jobs, a career,
Right.
and have gratitude for what it has provided you, how the lessons it has helped you to complete, allow yourself to complete them, so that then you can, with gratitude, then just move on and let go, right?
Well, and I connect so many dots with this whole set of circumstances, with things coming to that crossing of the line or the explosion, or however you want to phrase it. But it's like, your level of self-love has come to a point where you can no longer allow this.
Mhm. Well,
No
it
longer.
just doesn't resonate in any way with your vibration.
Right. And so then that at that point, it's I trust and I allow myself love over this other behavior.
Yes.
And that at that point, I see it from that expanded perspective, and I have gratitude for it. And that's,
Yeah.
then there's the forgiveness. I mean, everything just rolls into the whole, this is the way it's supposed to be.
Right. Right. And, in retrospect, a lot of times at the end, when you finally hit that line, you look back and go, wow, I was given 50 opportunities to do this before.
Right, exactly,
So
exactly.
I'm in gratitude to finally have gotten to the point where, it was time for me to make a different choice.
Well, and thanks to this person or this set of
Yes,
circumstances
absolutely.
for sticking it with me through those 50 times, so I
Hmm.
can get to that place of saying, "Ah, I get
Yes.
it. I'm at that point, that level of self-love for myself."
And you can, and the thing is the ego wants to jump in and the ego wants to judge and rationalize and blame or shame or whatever, like internally, even
Right,
if it's not externally, internally, it's like, no, be be thankful, let it be complete, let it go and move on.
right.
Right. And that,
And that's when you really move on,
yes. Well, right.
not
Because
just think
right.
egoically that you've moved on.
Right. Well, because it's like, and that's the whole thing is everyone where I have seen this going on, actually four people now, I forgot about this other one. Yeah. In the past week, that it's like in relationships or friendships or whatever, where they felt like, oh, I just don't talk to them as much as I used to. I don't like whatever, because it's a constant friction, right? Because of
Mhm.
whatever that little thing is, it's there to, bounce back in their face. Will, like is irritating to the ego, right? So it doesn't want
Right.
to look at it. So it just would say, oh, well, instead of just saying, maybe it's time for us to move on and complete this, you just sort of put it to the side and say, oh, I can deal with it. Some days are better than others, blah, blah, blah. And so, yeah, like you're saying, I do like, that is the idea is at some point, it's for you to get to a higher place of self-love than to your sacrificial loyalty to the other person.
Right. And it's what you've been asking for in your quest for expanded consciousness.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. To
So it's
open the space for new relationships where you have an equal footing and equal,
right.
free
And it's all perfect.
that. Yeah. Yes, it's all perfect. And and it's all these other relationships help us get to that point
Hmm.
when we're ready.
Right.
So we're going through a collective spring cleaning.
Right. Right. All those things that, oh, I thought I did that, or I thought I did that good enough.
Hmm.
Yep. I allowed that. I allowed that to a certain level. And I think that that's a leap because it all stems from that level of self love. And I think that as we expand that, there's going to be more and more of these intolerances or explosions or just drawing the line.
Hmm. Yep. Yeah. And so that's something to watch collectively, because it's definitely something coming up to push us to this authenticity. Because
Hmm.
when we are sacrificing ourselves in relationships, we're sacrificing our authenticity, period. Right? When we
Well, and it doesn't serve either side
no, it doesn't. No.
because you're both basing something on inaccuracies,
Right.
and that is that can be translated farther down the line and betrayals and so many other things
Betrayals,
versus
condescensions, like, discounting each other,
right.
putting each other down in different, and it's just like, it just makes your stomach turn a little bit
And I
because
mean, you can even, and that
we've all
can
been there.
translate into a job as well.
Yes. Oh, and I know a lot of people who are there with their jobs.
Right.
I feel like this year is the year for that, because everyone skated through with what they could last year, right? Like
Right.
if they had it, it was, oh, I'm just grateful to have the job, right? Because a lot of people lost their job. Although maybe in many ways, people who lost their job, especially when the job didn't serve them, right,
Right.
had the opportunity to start afresh.
Right.
And now you have the others who are like, oh no, I'm so grateful to have the job. But it's like, okay, again, the loyalty to your job is superseding your um, honoring your own authenticity
Mm-hmm.
and who you
Right.
really are and what
Yep.
you're worth.
Right. Right.
As we,
And that worth is the same as in a relationship as well.
yes,
Any relationship.
Yep.
whether it's familial, partner, worker, coworker, boss, work,
Right.
subordinate. I mean,
Well, and I was watching somebody we know had posted something about, having um issues with their family and having to get to the place of being okay with that. And it's like, yeah, that's one of the places we sacrifice ourselves the most with is,
right,
oh, so that I'll keep, mom happy or dad happy or my kids happy or my spouse happy or whatever. Or, my third cousin twice removed happy
right,
to keep the peace or whatever, to keep the peace. Right. So
right,
then you have to, then we do that out of this like thing that we have chosen to embed in ourselves, which is the need to be loyal, right?
right, right,
Above all else. And it's like, well, the key is to be loyal to yourself in that authenticity. And when you really hold that, truly allow that in your reality, then for yourself, then it will always happen in the relationships around you. And the
right,
other ones then do fall away. But then that's what we're doing all this work. We're doing all this stuff to shift. And then we're still trying to hold on to things that don't match our vibration anymore.
right, right. And that's when the explosion really becomes an explosion.
Yes.
When we're expanding, except this. And
Yeah.
it's like the dam just isn't going to hold there.
Well, it's like, well, the dam's like, well, which dimension am I in? Because I'm not quite sure. And therefore I can't exist in either if you're not going to
Right,
tell me
right,
what
exactly.
so it's yeah, it's a lot of stuff. And so it's really, and it's so uncomfortable because we have been taught, how to build the foundation of the value of who we are based on, our job and, what we do and, how much money we bring in and
All
how
the externals.
all the roles that we play. Right.
Right,
So being a parent, being a spouse, being a friend, being this, being a steward of this or steward of that, an activist in something or other. And at some point you can say, okay, I'm done. But we tend to not do that. We can tend to think, oh no, I've seen it through to now. I've got to just continue on. Maybe you're just done.
right,
But we have this tendency to only trust what we remember or what we know, right? Trust the evils, kind of thing, right?
right, right. Or what we're comfortable with.
Right.
Because there's that natural tendency to not trust what you are uncomfortable with, because otherwise, why would you be uncomfortable with it?
Right. Right. And so we're at this place of oh good, excuse me. So we're at this place of having to let go and so this leads into what we're going to be talking about in our Wonderland program for June, which is all the trust.
Right,
And when shifting our perception on trust of saying, oh well, I have to trust it's going to happen, or I have to trust it's going to happen, and it something we've been talking about the last couple of weeks is how it's become when you look at it from an expanded perspective, it's very linear, right? And you're going, what do you mean you trust it's going to happen? You're the creator, so there's nothing to trust. You already know it's done.
right.
So
It's just,
allowing
simply,
it,
what do you allow?
yeah, what are you allowing into your reality?
Yeah, the phrases that kept coming to me end of last week and over the weekend, it's like the level of strength you have is simply how much you allow. Just the same with courage, the same with love, the same with divinity. It's all there. It's just how much do you allow? And it's like, well, today I allow this much, and it's like it's so empowering, at the same time a little intimidating to
Right.
come to that realization that, today I'm only going to allow this much. Nobody says that.
Right.
Nobody says that, but
But
they
that's
act
what we
that
do.
way. That is
Yep.
exactly, exactly
That's what we do.
right.
And yeah, so it's funny that when you change that perception, you're like, wait a minute. What do you mean? What do I allow?
Right.
Well, when you say that, then you have to look at it from a completely different perspective and say, well, then that's what I'm choosing, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's the
That's
choice.
that next step beyond.
Yeah.
Right.
Is that it's all a choice of mine and that self-responsibility, which, is month 5,
Somewhere
right?
in there. Yeah.
So, so yeah, that's a powerful, it's a powerful thing. And yet it's letting go of these things that we want to sweep under the rug because it's, we, especially when we have things like relationships that have come with us through key points in our life, right? Or
Right.
key shifts in our lives, you know. Somebody I know, I think it's like 40 years they were friends with this one person, and it just hasn't been serving them for probably 10 years. And they keep on, oh, it's okay. That's just how they are. Da, da, da. And it finally came to that line, and it was like, yep, it's done.
Right. Yeah.
And then, and the ego wants to say, and God, like, what kind of person is that after 40 years and blah, 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 blah. But it's like, except they've always been that way. You've just been non-authentic with yourself and letting them take that from you, right?
Right.
In that
Right.
interaction. So, yeah, and it's so funny that it all came up so much like that with different people around me last week in very intense and obvious ways.
Right. And I do think that it's just a symptom of how much the collective is expanding that level of self-love and
Yes.
and getting to that place of certain intolerances, which, or oh gosh, what's the word I'm looking for? Where where the vibration just doesn't match yours anymore.
Yeah.
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 Which I think is what we've been asking for. So how is that a bad thing?
I know. I know. Well, that's the whole thing, right? And but what the ego says is, oh, well, I want all of this, and then I don't want to let go of this because this still gives me value at some really deep level, right? Whatever that relationship or role or whatever is.
Right.
And we just
Well,
continue to fool ourselves until
well,
it breaks.
and then you will be forever defined by that deep level that you're holding on to. It's like the strength of a chain is only as strong as the weakest link,
Right.
which is the
Yeah.
same with your energy. It's like you will be defined by your lowest vibration
Yeah.
until you shift that.
Or yeah, and the other way to deal with that is sometimes so it's not like you necessarily have to kick them out of your life.
Right.
Sometimes they naturally ease away. Sometimes, excuse me, you either get like geographically
Right.
separated or just different things go on in your lives where it's just you move on and there's just not even any kind of dissonance.
Right. Or it's a temporary where they cycle back around and they
Yes.
have then brought themselves to that level to where it's a whole
Yeah.
different relationship.
And there are people that I am friendly with that exactly is like the very like, and I've known them through a whole bunch of stuff, and then we sort of went our own ways, came back together,
Right.
and have a different level of a connection now. That and you can't say, oh, is it the same or is it not the same? So you don't want it to be the same because you're not the same any given day,
Exactly. Right.
right? And so sometimes that, or you get to a place where you say, and this tends to happen, I think, more in familial things, or, like
Mhm.
your parents, your sisters or brothers or whatever, where you just come to a place of accepting who they are and knowing they're going to be around in some way, shape, or form, right? And you just say, it's who they are, and I'm going to allow myself to be who I am, even when I interact with them. And so that can cause friction for a while in the
Right.
relationship. And
Right.
sometimes it does get to the point where nobody wants to talk to you or whatever, or vice versa. But also it can get to a place where the other sometimes, and I have found personally that sometimes the other like gets a little begrudgingly accepting of you being in a different place because you're just not taking it anymore. And it's just like, okay, yep,
Right.
I mean, and I actually have gotten really good with that where it's like, okay, great. now, I'm going to go
Maybe
now.
we'll see
Oh,
you later.
yep. Great to talk to you, and I'll talk to you some other time or see you some other time.
Right.
And it's okay. And there's no judgment. There's no, but then that's where you stop sacrificing your own authenticity, right?
Mhm.
And you let
Exactly.
the other person at the same time, you let them be where they are, but you also honor yourself by being where you are instead of shifting yourself to try to accommodate them or try to get like them to match up with you, right?
Mhm.
Well, why aren't you this way? Or like 'cause, you might say you might be getting it one way, but then habits could be in the past of giving away and sacrificing ourselves. Like, oh, what can I do to make you happier? Right?
Right. Right. Yep.
Because then that's this lack mentality of, oh, I need this relationship, I need this. And it's like, well,
Yep.
no, that goes back to the core of nobody makes anyone happy except for themselves.
Exactly. Yep.
So you cannot make anyone happy. Nobody can make you happy.
Right. Right.
The only reason
And
we think
sometimes
people,
that's enough to shift the dynamics in a relationship to the point where it becomes untenable.
Mhm, right? Right. And it's like, well, if we think someone makes us happy, it's because we believe that they fill some hole that we have, which means there's a lack in there from the ego that we are existing with and sweeping under the rug.
Right.
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 So, where that also manifests is all of a sudden something happens to a person, either they transition out or they get pulled away. Like I said, some physical separation or, whatever that forces each to not depend on each other
Right.
in that wholeness. There's so many facets to this.
There really are. There really are. And there's um so many different triggers that can bring this to the surface. And some of them are just simply, not based on an event,
Right. Right.
like we said. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the thing for us to, look around at this week. I think we pretty much got to the point we could do our little session, which
Right.
I think it's record
Yeah.
time for us.
Look at us.
But yeah, and I guess we should just I guess the intention or the creation would be to set ourselves in that vibration where we can see within ourselves and within our realities that we create what has outgrown its use, what
Right.
relationships have outgrown their use. And I'm not saying that in any judgmental way at all. Just, is this still, and am I being authentically me 100% in all of these relationships with people, with my job, with, any situation, any interactions. And so sometimes that alone, just having that clarity to be able to see within yourself
Hmm.
and help you to say, oh, okay, I can see where I'm not being authentic here.
Right. Right.
And, because these are the things we sweep under the rug, right? Like we're saying, the ego goes, oh, we can just give this little bit away. We can just do this to make them happy this time. Right.
Right.
I'll just do this because it makes them happy.
Well, and I'm aware of it, so it's different.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So I'm
Yep.
consciously doing this. So that's okay because I'm conscious about it. Yes.
Right.
So yeah, so whatever the center says, the vibration of being able to see that within ourselves, to see within all of our relationships, be able to see our level of authenticity and see what might be time to shift into a different place with any relationship, right? And
Right.
to have gratitude and resolution and apology and forgiveness for anything outstanding that we feel like has been a friction thing underneath the surface, caused irritation or discomfort or whatever because of that imbalance in the relationship, so that we can then let it go, let it
Right.
be
And
free.
and you know, that forgiveness is for yourself.
Yes, an apology.
Right. Not the others involved.
Well, and the others involved too, right?
But it stems from yourself.
Yes. And how, yeah. And then just let's set ourselves to also have the clarity on how to shift it gracefully and easily, in flow with gratitude, so that all involved, not just you, but everybody involved, are able to be their authentic selves and to honor that within themselves individually. That feels really nice.
Yeah, that does.
Yep. All right. So let's go do that.
Okay.
All right. I kept on like starting to come back and I'm like, no, this actually feels really nice. It was a little bit, in the beginning, there was like, well, it goes back to that knot that we've talked about, like the jewelry, like knot
Yeah.
kind of thing. So, and it was like, okay, well, how do I know? Because, like what's the, like, and we don't, because consciously we have these things embedded about what this friendship means to me, what this relationship means to me, what this job means to me. And we can, like in shifting it to be in a different place versus keeping it in the same place if it doesn't serve,
Right.
both involved. And so it was like this, like not, and then it was like, well, just breathe, like let it like loosen on its own. And then I just started to see it. And then once that happened, like it just sort of flowed out, and it was so freeing. It was like, oh, freedom.
I kept seeing like floating on a cloud, and it was like every interaction, it was like the cloud, if the cloud could hold you, then the interaction stayed. Otherwise it just fell through the cloud, and it's like, oh, okay. But
I like
first
that.
I felt obligated to hold those things at the cloud. And it was like, but it's not about me, it's about that.
What a
And
perfect metaphor.
that was
right.
just, it was like,
Yeah.
oh,
Right.
and it almost like took the responsibility off me. It's like, no, that's actually your responsibility. This is where I am. And it's your
Mhm.
responsibility if you want to be here to be on the cloud. That
Right.
was really,
Or to be on your own cloud, which is maybe in a different place,
right.
which is fine. Yeah.
Right.
Nice.
Very nice.
Yeah, this feels really good. Very nice. Yeah. So, that's the home play for this week, is to be aware
Right.
Of that, and to be aware of the things that you might be holding on to, that you have been holding on to in a way of sweeping it under the rug, that it's uncomfortable. And instead of, and we don't honor something by doing that, by the way, it's honoring it more to taking it out and looking at it and saying, is this still as it is, or is there something to shift here or to let go of? It's going to make it better and more free for everyone and everything
Right.
involved.
Exactly.
Right. So, and to do that with acceptance and transcendence, that's the really, and love is the most important part, and gratitude. So that's it for this week. On a reminder note, our trust/allow class starts tomorrow. Right. And if you still like to join up and you are not part of, say, the 7-month program, we do have a special. It's $99 until midnight tonight.
Exactly.
And it is self-paced, so though we are offering it in June,
right,
like you can pay for it now and not get to it till July. That's fine
right.
too, but the special goes away at the end of the day, and then it'll be like whatever it is, $128, I think. But and we have the live. We're starting to do more live stuff, like on the private Facebook group, and everybody gets to be a part of that. So so take a look. Check it out. I mean, and this is just a little taste of what we're going to be doing all month.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So thanks for joining us. Have a great one. Have a great and enjoyable holiday. This is Angela Coulter and
Sarah Sieg Avagnoni
signing off with this week's Ascended World. Have a good one.